Hare Krishna. So just some time ago, His Grace Bhurijan was here. I was thinking I would have given you the darshan of Prabhuji just 2 minutes ago. If Prabhuji would have come little late, he was just here, the original teacher of Bhakti Shastri courses, designer teacher. I could have given you his darshan and brought you his blessings for all of you. But anyways, Prabhuji just now went. Okay, so yesterday we discussed further symptoms of a person in yoga ruda stage. One of the main point was how he is equipoised towards pebbles and stones and gold, and how he is also equipoised towards different personalities, well-wishers, envious, everyone. And then we began the second section of this chapter, the stages of Ashtanga Yoga practice, wherein the 10th verse described about practices in Yoga Rudha stage. And then 11th, so how he lives alone in a secluded place, always carefully controlling the mind, free from all desires and possessiveness. And then 11 to 14 verses describe the basic practices of Ashtanga Yoga, sitting firmly. The asana posture is also important. Even for our Bhakti Yoga also, especially while chanting, the portion is important factor. So that's why Prabhupada would always say, sit properly. If you hear Prabhupada's japa, in between he tells devotees, sit properly, sit properly. So posture is important, whether it is Ashtanga Yoga, even in Bhakti Yoga. And then fixing the mind on a point, controlling the mind and senses, and the purpose of yoga is purification of consciousness, Atma Vishuddhi. Being erect by keeping the body, neck and head straight, being motionless, firm, staring steadily at the tip of the nose, and meditating on my form, Krishna says. Mat Chitta. Very clearly, Krishna establishes how one should meditate on Krishna's form. The goal of Ashtanga Yoga or Dhyana Yoga is also to meditate on the Krishna's form only, not on some void or impersonal thing. So in this way, we discuss various things about basic practices of Ashtanga Yoga till verse number 14. And Prabhupada continuously goes on talking about Krishna consciousness in that, how Krishna consciousness automatically fulfills all these requirements which are there of Ashtanga Yoga. Okay, so please go to verse number 15, please recite.
युञ्जानेवं सदात्मानं
Yunjanevam sadatmanam
विनियतमानस
yogi niyatamanasah
शान्तिं निर्वाणपरमं
shantim nirvana paramam
मत्संस्थाम् अधिगच्छति.
matsamsam adhigacchati.
Translation: thus practicing constant control of the body, mind and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence.
Yes. So this verse talks about the goal of Ashtanga Yoga. By practicing control of body, mind, and activities with regulated mind, Yeta Manasaha, what yogi attains? Yogi attains cessation of material existence, nirvana paramam, paramam nirvanam. So, which is cessation of all material existence. Second thing yogi attains is mat sthanam, samsthan, mat samsthan. Samstha, you understand samstha? भगवान की संस्था क्या है? भगवत धाम. Institution, samstha literally means institution or Lord's society. What is Lord's society? That is Lord's kingdom. Lord's kingdom is spiritual world. So by practice of Ashtanga Yoga, this is to be attained. Freedom from material existence and abode of the Lord. In purport, Prabhupada says, yoga practice is not meant for attaining any kind of material facility. It is to enable the cessation of all material existence. How we can see that in modern society, yoga is highly misunderstood. Although yoga has become very popular, but the goal of yoga is being missing. This goal of yoga, generally the yoga is used for just getting some material facility. But the real goal of yoga is to enable the cessation of all material existence, to become free from all material existence. So further Prabhupada says, but even though there may be some yogis who may want to be free from material existence, but what after that? What is to be gained after material existence is over? After one is ceased from all material existence, what is the next? So some yogi misunderstand it to be void. So Prabhupada clarifies it. Cessation of material existence does not entail one's entering into the void, which is only a myth. Being void is simply a myth. There is no void anywhere within the creation of the Lord. There is always existence. You remember that living entity is called as Sarvada in the creation of the Lord. So everywhere living entity is present. There is no void. Rather, the cessation of material existence enables one to enter into a positive realm, that is spiritual sky, abode of the Lord. One becomes zero. After one negates the negative, one doesn't become zero. On the other hand, one gets into the spiritual sky, that is the abode of the Lord. Further, Prabhupada says, what is the kingdom of the Lord? The kingdom of the Lord is not simply spiritual world. Kingdom of the Lord is everywhere. Material world is also kingdom of the Lord. Just like the prison is also under the control of government. So the control of government is everywhere. The prison also and the normal city also, isn't it? Same way, kingdom of the God is everywhere, spiritual world, material world. But the spiritual sky and the planets thereof are called Param or superior abodes. They are superior abodes because they are controlled, governed by superior energy. Whereas material worlds are governed by inferior energy, that is material energy. Further ahead, Prabhupada says, no one can reach the spiritual sky, Vaikuntha, or enter into Lord's eternal abode, Golok Vrindavan, without proper understanding of Krishna and his plenary expansion, Vishnu. Therefore, a person working in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi because his mind is always absorbed in Krishna's activities. Savai Mana Krishna Paravinda Yoga. Because his mind is always absorbed in Krishna consciousness, Krishna's activities. So, a devotee is the perfect yogi. On the other hand, when here it is mentioned that a person ceases material existence and then he can enter into spiritual abode, but it is not simply something what we can say. It's not just concomitant that one has become free from material existence and automatically one will go to spiritual world. No, one has to understand Krishna and his plenary expansions. Unless until one becomes Krishna conscious and pure devotee, nobody can go back to Godhead. That is not possible. So even though somebody may have a lot of realization about spirit, soul, and difference between material world and spiritual things, material things, spiritual things, but unless until one understands the Supreme Lord and renders devotional service to Him, there is no chance of going to the spiritual world. And Prabhupada quotes further, Shvetashvata Upanishad, Tam eva viditvati mrityumeti. One can overcome the path of birth and death only by understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in summary, what is the perfection of yoga system? Freedom from material existence and entering into the spiritual sky. So even Dhyana Yogi, when he meditates on the form of the Lord, he understands the Lord, then he enters into Vaikuntha planets, not simply by negating the material existence. So, what to speak of some magical jugglery or gymnastic feats to befool innocent people? Last lines of the purport you can see. Prabhupada says that. In other words, the perfection of yoga system is the attainment of freedom from material existence and not some magical jugglery or gymnastic feats to befool innocent people. So many yogis may do some gymnastic feats in terms of some kind of wonderful things they will do. They are able to go little above the ground and sit there, or some magical fates, because in the due course a yogi attains ashtasiddhis. In the due course of this dhyana yoga, ashtanga yoga practices, a yogi may attain various types of ashtasiddhis. Mahima, Anima, Lagima, Prapti, Kam Vyavasayitva, like that there are 8 siddhis are present. So yogi attains that. But if a yogi gets stuck up into that, he simply goes after name and fame in this world, and in this way remains in material world only. And after some time, his ability to achieve those mystical feats are also gone. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he would tell one story in this regards, that there was one village from which one yogi, he went to one person from that village, he went to Himalayas, and he did tapasya for 30 years, kathor tapasya, heavy heavy penances he did for 30 years, and he became a Siddha yogi and came back. So all the villagers, when he came back, gathered around him, and asked him, so what did you attain by 30 years of tapasya, penance? And then he said, see, I can do something which you cannot do. And they said, what? He said, just see. And there was a river nearby the village, and he just walked on the water. On the river water, he just walked across the river. And he said, just see, I can walk on the water without any help of boat. And then the villagers told him, see, this kind of thing we can get by 20 paisa. Simply by paying 20 paisa, we can cross the river with the boat. So what is the use of your so much of tapasya and your some magical feat you are showing us? It is only 20 paisa worth. And in this way, villagers were not impressed with him and they just went away. So this story, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur tells that so in this way he says that many scientists also have achieved many of these things nowadays by some scientific progress. Maybe at lower level, gross level. Scientists are also able to, sometimes the yogi may able to penetrate through mountain. But even scientists are also able to penetrate through mountain and make tunnels and all that. So in this way, the yoga practices, this is not the goal of yoga practices, simply to befool innocent people by showing some gymnastic feats, going above the ground, or walking on the water, or doing some kind of magic. The goal of yoga practice is to become free from material existence and to enter into spiritual sky. And that's what is the goal of all the yoga practices, all different yogas, isn't it? Yeah. So in this way, a yogi must know the super soul if he wants Shantim Nirvana Paramam, the cessation of material existence. Without knowing the super soul, he cannot get it. He must carefully avoid the desire for mystic siddhis, otherwise he will not progress. The three great flaws in the process of karma, jnana, and yoga are the dangers within each of the process, make them hazardous for aspiring transcendentalists. There are some dangers in these three processes of karma, jnana, and yoga. What is that? They each offer powerful temptations. Each of them offer powerful temptations. In karma, whether it is karma kanda or sakarma karma yoga, one tends to become attached to the fruits of one's work. There is a this obstacle or temptation is there. That I have worked so hard to get it. I should enjoy everything. Why should I share it with others? Why should I part with it for others? So this is the danger of karma yoga or even karma kanda. With Jnana Yoga, the desire to merge into Brahman, thinking of the glories of freedom from both anxiety and service, tempts one. In Jnana Yoga, the temptation is just become free from all troubles and miseries of life and simply attain peace and just merge into Brahman. This is another temptation. In Ashtanga Yoga, one tends to desire mystic siddhis so that one becomes powerful and can even override the laws of nature. One can cross over the laws of nature and become so powerful, and that's how one becomes attached to that siddhis. One gets name and fame. One can show off oneself in a great way. So in this way, all these three paths, karma, jnana, and yoga, they offer big hazardous temptations. A bhakta, however, forever remains Krishna's servant and thus avoids all these hindrances by keeping his mind absorbed in Krishna consciousness. A real devotee, he remains free from these hazards because he always understands that Jivera Swarupa hai Nitya Krishna Das. Nitya means not only in the beginning stage, middle stage, advanced stage, at every stage is Krishna's servant. And in this way, a devotee avoids all these temptations. Okay, so please recite 16th verse now.
Sharat Prabhu.
Yes. नाट्य अस्नातस्तु योगोऽस्ति
नात्यश्नतस्तु योगोऽस्ति
न चैकातम् अस्ना अनाश्नता
नैचैकान्तमनश्नतः
न चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य
न चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य
जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन.
जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन.
Translation: There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough.
Yes, please read purport.
But regulation of diet and sleep is recommended herein for the yogis. Too much eating means eating more than is required to keep the body and soul together. There is no need for men to eat animals because there is an ample supply of grains, vegetables, fruits, and milk. Such simple foodstuff is considered to be in the mode of goodness, according to the Bhagavad Gita. Animal food is for those in the mode of ignorance. Therefore, those who indulge in animal food, drinking, smoking, and eating food which is not first offered to Krishna will suffer sinful reactions because of eating only polluted things. Bhujante te tva agham papaye pasyanti atma karanat. Anyone who eats for sense pleasure or cooks for himself, not offering his food to Krishna, eats only sin. One who eats sin and eats more than is allotted to him cannot execute perfect yoga. It is best that one eat only the remnants of foodstuff offered to Krishna.
Yeah,
A
that's
person in
it.
Krishna.
That's it. That's it.
Yes.
So, one of the very, very important thing for a yogi, any type of yogi, it may be, Bhakti yogi, Ashtanga yogi, Dhyana yogi, Karma yogi, whatever, Jnana yogi, is control of eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So these are the activities. These are the activities which are common between human beings and animals. And human life is meant to regulate these activities. In fact, one sense we see animals' life, these activities are automatically regulated by the nature's programming in itself. So, but human beings, they should deliberately regulate them. Especially this eating now, first portion is eating. So if somebody eats too much or eats too little, he cannot practice yoga. And in the purport here, so these are all recommendations in Ashtanga Yoga about diet. One should follow proper diet. So first of all, Prabhupada is telling that eating too much, what Prabhupada is saying, eat only Krishna Prasadam. One who eats anything except for Krishna Prasadam is simply bound by sinful reactions. And such a sinful person, he cannot take to the process of yoga. That's why eating should be only for Krishna Prasadam. And of course, one should avoid all this meat, drinking, smoking, and all such things. So, Prabhupada says there are enough grains available. Why should one eat all these animals and all that? Now, further Prabhupada says, nor can one who artificially abstains from eating, manufacturing his own personal process of fasting, practice of yoga. So there are so many people who manufacture their own process of fasting also. Because what happens that if person eats too much, then he becomes little dull. Even scientifically, we also understand that the whole energy of the body gets accumulated at the belly to digest the food. So in this way, one becomes dull. So now some people feel that if I would like to just fast now, but even simply by fasting, whimsical type of fasting, one cannot practice yoga also because one becomes very, what you say, weak in body and mind as well by not eating. So that's why Prabhupada says Krishna conscious person, he observes fasting as it is recommended in the scriptures. So in the scripture, there are specific recommendations for fasting. Which all days, which are the recommendations in the scriptures, especially for Vaishnavas to fast?
Ekadashi.
Ekadashi fasting, yes. And
Janmashtami.
Janmashtami.
All appearance disappearance of Acharyas and Supreme Lord.
Lord's appearance days also. So those days we do fasting. So that fasting is recommended and that much fasting one should do. So he who does not fast or eat more than required and is thus competent to perform yoga practice. He neither does too much fasting also, whimsically too much fasting also, nor does too much eating also. Like that. So there used to be one devotee in our ashram. Those days he became too fired up and he decided that I'll just fast now and he used to hardly eat anything. So one day, and he said that I want to do a lot of swift progress in Krishna consciousness. So he took the vow of a lot of fasting. But then eventually he had to get admitted in hospital. And that was the end of his swift progress of spiritual life. So too little eating also is not good. Too much fasting. Too much eating, of course, is the root cause of all diseases. That also we know. That it gives rise to a lot of diseases. In Western countries or nowadays even in India, the major reason for diseases is overeating. Similarly, Prabhupada says, one who eats more than required, what is the consequence? He will sleep more than required. It is obvious concomitant factor. Somebody eats too much, they will obviously sleep so much. As we discussed that, because whole bodily energy gets concentrated in digesting the food. So one sleeps too much. So Prabhupada says, one who eats more than required will dream very much while sleeping. He gets too many dreams and he must consequently sleep more than is required. Somebody doesn't get a very deep sleep, sushupti, he gets a lot of dreamy sleep, that means he'll sleep more than required. So one should not sleep more than 6 hours daily. One who sleeps more than 6 hours out of 20 hours, 4 hours is certainly influenced by the mode of ignorance. This is Prabhupada is saying. So I think we have some good homework to do in this regard. Right. A person in the mode of ignorance is lazy and prone to sleep a great deal. Such a person cannot perform yoga. Somebody sleeps too much also, he becomes lazy. Somebody sleeps too less, he becomes crazy. One who sleeps too much becomes lazy, one who sleeps too less becomes crazy. And in this way, both cannot practice yoga also. So that's why regulation of eating and sleeping is required. So there has to be proper balance in the stomach. So what is that proper balance? We know that half stomach should be filled with food, 1/4 with water, and 1/4 there should be air. Should be some space for air circulation. If yogi eats too little, the amount of air is increased and the body becomes disturbed. By eating too less, also what happens? The vata increases and then the body becomes disturbed. Sleeping also must be balanced. So this is going to be now discussed in the 17th verse. So please recite 17th verse. Famous verse.
Sumit Prabhu.
युक्ताहार विहारस्य
Yuktahara
विहारस्य
युक्तस्य कर्मसु
Yuktasya karmasu
युक्ता स्वपनबोधस्य
स्वप्नावबोधस्य
योगा भवति दुःखः. Translation: He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system.
Yeah, please read purport.
Purport: Extravagance in the matter of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, which are demands of the body, can block advancement in the practice of yoga. As far as eating is concerned, it can be regulated only when one is practiced to take and accept prasadam, sanctified food. Lord
Yeah,
Krishna.
That's it. Thank you. So again, Krishna is telling. So here in this verse, Krishna is telling the formula for mitigating the miseries. Typically, the cause of miseries for a person is unregulated eating, sleeping, mating, dispending, and it's also this is the cause for a lot of health issues also. So this is the health tip Krishna is giving here. Even for a basic health, this regulation of eating, sleeping, mating, defending is very much required. Somebody who has lot of eating, sleeping, mating, defending extravagantly does, then it cannot, he neither can remain healthy nor he can advance in yoga. So again, Prabhupada emphasizes that eating should be limited to only accepting Krishna Prasadam and nothing else. So in this way, Krishna conscious person, he automatically is trained not to accept food not meant for human consumption. What is the food not meant for human consumption?
meat.
Yeah, non-vegetarian foodstuffs especially. Because Krishna never accepts non-vegetarian foodstuffs. And in this way, he is automatically trained. He automatically he takes only those foodstuffs which are more or less in the mode of goodness. Now, sleeping is concerned, Krishna conscious person is always alert in the discharge of his duties in Krishna consciousness, and therefore, any unnecessary time spent in sleeping is considered to be a great loss. If somebody sleeps too much, it is considered to be great loss, lot of lost waste of time. So Chanakya Pandit also says that Ayushya Kshana Ekopi na labhya swarna koti bihi. One does not get one's time back. So if one wastes one's time in all these things, then one there is a very great loss for a person. So somebody who sleeps too much, that is considered to be a great loss. Avyartha kalatvam. That's why it is one of the quality of devotee that he does not waste his time. He cannot bear to pass a minute of his life without being engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore, his sleeping is kept to a minimum. So, devotee is always cautious how he is utilizing his time, and he tries to see that his time is perfectly utilized for serving the Lord. So, in this way, he very keeps his eating sleeping program very minimum. In Western countries, especially, we see they eat a lot of meat and maida items, because of which lot of even time goes in clearing also. They cannot clear also very fast because these things get stuck up in the food. Also, there is a lot of need of sleep because these foods are very heavy to digest also. So in this way, a lot of time gets lost. And this is only the gross level. What to speak of, it affects the mind, and then mind remains disturbed. And in this way, it affects the efficiency of a person. And in this way, a lot of time goes in other activities also, and hardly any time remains for spiritual activities. So in this way, there is a connection between time, engagement, and eating, sleeping, mating, defending also. So Prabhupada says the ideal is Srila Rupa Goswami, who is to sleep not more than 2 hours, not daytime 2 hours, in the night time, total 24 hours by 2 hours. Not that he was sleeping daytime 2 hours. And even Haridas Thakur, who would not eat or sleep before his rounds were completed. Now Haridas Thakur was not chanting 16 rounds, right? So these rounds were 192. So that shows that what he must be eating or sleeping. So we see even in Srila Prabhupada's life, he would sleep very less, 2.5 hours maximum, not more than that. And even when he used to go for sleep, that much also he used to say, I'm just going for wasting my time, because of taking rest. Prabhupada used to always feel that I am wasting my time by sleeping. So more one is advanced in Krishna consciousness, one of the symptoms is that his eating and sleeping is reduced. They are kept to basic minimum. Then further comes Cheshta, so Yukta Ahara, Yukta Swapna. These two are eating and sleeping. Now, Yukta Cheshta is work. As far as work is concerned, a Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not connected with Krishna's interest, and thus his work is always regulated and is untainted by sense gratification. And similarly, in terms of recreation. Here, of course, Prabhupada does not mention. Of course, Prabhupada says here that there is no material leisure for a person in Krishna consciousness. So he does not do so much hard work that he has no time for Krishna consciousness. So his work is also regulated. He knows where is the limit of working. It's not that day and night he simply works, and there is no bhakti time, no time for Krishna. So this is also, such a person cannot be yogi. He is not regulated in his work. Similarly, he is not regulated in his recreation. Especially in modern times, we see that people are more entertainment and fun oriented, and they want a lot of recreation. But if a lot of time is wasted in recreation, and nowadays there are so many means of recreation are present. Previously, people had to do recreation, they had to go a little far, they had to travel, or they had to go to playground for play and all that. But now recreation available at home only, not at home, even at your mobile. But a lot of time gets wasted in such recreation. And in this way, person says, no time for spirituality, no time for Krishna consciousness. So in this way, such a person, he wastes his valuable human form of life and simply is preparing for not so good future. So that's why a yogi, a devotee or yogi, he should see that he is eating, sleeping, mating, defending, also work and recreation are limited, regulated in a proper way, so that he gets ample amount of time, energy, health, and availability for practicing his Krishna consciousness, practicing his yoga. So this regulation is a very, very important aspect, even for a devotee also. And in this way, last line Prabhupada says that because he is regulated in all his work, speech, sleep, wakefulness, and all other bodily activities, there is no material misery for him. Such a person who lives a very regulated life, he also becomes free from the miseries. He has no material miseries. So, yogo bhavati dukkha. By regulating all this, in a yoga practices, one becomes free from miseries also. Why? Because his health also remains good. His he's alert also, and he does not invite too many diseases also, and his mind remains fresh. And in this way, he becomes free from all diseases also, and he becomes free from all mental disease problems and health problems, bodily problems. And in this way, even good extent, the material miseries are reduced. Now, there is one question that there are some who eat in a regulated manner and still sleep 6 hours is not sufficient for them. What we can say about it? Yeah, so Prabhupada was aware of this. So in the books, Prabhupada has given absolute standards, but during his letters and conversations, he has given some concessions that up to 6 to 8 hours, Prabhupada has said. So based on person's modes, those who are in mode of ignorance, they need more sleep. Those who are more in goodness, they need less and less and less and less sleep. So that's how now in the beginning stages, one may have to act according to one's modes, but one should take to the process of bhakti by which one is getting elevated in his modes. So those who are in mode of ignorance, they may need little, their bodies, somehow habituated to that mode of ignorance, so they may need little more sleep. But more sleep also should not be 10 hours, 12 hours. That means he is putting himself further in mode of ignorance. But somebody who is somehow accustomed for that, then he can gradually reduce it. So his other practices of taking bath regularly, eating sufficiently, doing, some kind of exercises and all that, Ashtanga yoga, these yoga asanas. By that and by solely cultivating the mode of goodness, keeping things clean, chanting sincerely, engage in deity worship. So all these things will what will happen by that? Slowly person will uplift himself to mode of goodness, and similarly his need of sleep will also reduce. He will not sleep too much, will not sleep more than needed. So that's how, yeah, it is agreed that for some of the people, even though they come in Krishna consciousness, and they may not eat too much also, but 6 hours of sleep may not be enough. So at letters and conversations, that's how Prabhupada has given some more concession. 6 to 8 hours, Prabhupada says, at various places like that. I hope this answers your question. Okay, so one more verse we'll take, please. Anyways, so Srila Vishwanath Thakur, he explains that the yogi's recreation is walking. What is a recreation for yogi? Walking. So yogi can go for a walk. Srila Baladev Vrindavishan mentions that yogi should restrict his speaking. By controlling all these activities, the yogi remains free from desires and strong in meditation. He becomes very strong in his meditation, and even for a devotee, this is applicable. Okay, so please recite 18 verse.
Shrikar Prabhu.
यदा यदा विनीयतं चित्तम्
यदा विनीयतं चित्तम्
आत्मनि एव वतिष्ठते
आत्मन्नेवावतिष्ठते
निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यो
निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यो
युक्त इति उच्यते तदा.
युक्त इति उच्यते तदा.
Translation: when the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his material activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga.
Yeah. So now 18 to 23 verses, they are going to describe perfectional stage of Ashtanga Yoga. So this verse is talking what are the perfection in Ashtanga Yoga? The disciplining mental activities or consciousness, Viniyatam Chittam. Second is being fixed in self or transcendence, Atmani Evavatishtate. Third one is devoid of all material desires, Nispruhah sarva kamebhyo. So these are all require. These are all things which are mentioned for perfection in Ashtanga Yoga. So please read purport.
Yes, ma'am. The activities of the yogi are distinguished from those of an ordinary person by his characteristic cessation from all kinds of material desires, of which sex is the chief. A perfect yogi is so well disciplined in the activities of the mind that he can no longer be distributed by any kind of material desire. This perfectional stage can be automatically be attained by persons in Krishna consciousness,
Yes,
as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam.
yes. So activities of yogi are distinguished from other ordinary people. Do you remember this verse? या निशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यां जागर्ति संयमी यस्यां जागर्ति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेन. So difference is there is a vast amount of difference between activities of yogi and activities of an ordinary person. And typically the difference is cessation from all kinds of material desires headed by sex desire. So a yogi is so well disciplined that he cannot be disturbed in his mind by any material desires. He regulates his life in that way. And Prabhupada says a devotee automatically attains this same state. And Prabhupada now he quotes the whole series of verses of Ambarish Maharaj. How Ambarish Maharaj he engaged all his senses in the service of the Lord. Beginning very famous verses, Savai Mana Krishna Padar Vendayor, Ocham Sivai Kunthagunanu, and goes on and on and on. All the 4-5 verses Prabhupada is quoting how Ambarish Maharaj engaged all his senses in the service of the Lord. And because of that, he was always controlled in his body, mind, and even soul. He was always, regulated in his speech, regulated in his activities, regulated in his his thoughts also, desires. So therefore, Prabhupada says, in the devotional service of the Lord, these prescribed activities are called archana, or engaging all senses in the service of the Lord. Especially the archana literally means worship of the deities. So if one engages oneself in the worship of the deities, one's all senses are automatically engaged in the service of the Lord, and in this way one becomes free from tendencies of sense gratification. The senses and the mind require some engagements. They cannot be idle. So that's how simple abnegation is not practical. Therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in renounced order of life, transcendental engagement of the senses and mind is, as described above, is the perfect process of transcendental achievement, which is called yukta in Bhagavad Gita. So everybody should be engage his senses in the service of the Lord, and that way one becomes purified. So when the yogi's mind is undisturbed and remains situated in the self, he is called yukta, connected. So process of yoga is the process of connection, and yukta means now he is connected. Now the current has started flowing. So, or Prabhupada translates it as well situated in yoga. He is now established in yoga. That's what is the meaning of word yukta. So such a person who is well situated now, by regulating his material activities, mental activities, and linked with the Lord and situated in that link, so such a person is called yukta, yoga yukta. Okay, so as I said that I have my another class now, Srimad Bhagavatam class. So I have to hear that. I'll go now. We'll conclude here for today. Next week we'll continue. So we have covered 18 verses of this chapter. Next week we'll continue now further. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Grantara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Jai.